Welcome to the Divine Lifestyles Podcast. I'm your host, Tara Magalski. Together with my guest experts, I cover topics ranging from cutting-edge healing modalities to hormonal harmony, to nutrition and plant medicine, to mindfulness and spirituality. My goal is to educate and inspire so you can create your own divine lifestyle. It's time to dive inward, rewire your brain, and heal from the inside out. Hey, beautiful soul fam. Please join Divine Lifestyles for a transformative and empowering women's healing retreat, October 16th through 22nd in Mexico. It's going to be a 6-night, 7-day experience that is designed to uplift your spirit, help you transcend trauma, and lead you towards a life of a renewed freedom and empowerment. Nestled in a serene and tranquil oasis, this amazing property in Cien Can provides the perfect sanctuary for you to nurture your body and embark on a journey of self-discovery, renewal, and of course, rejuvenation. Learn more at divinelifestyles.com/transcendence. Today, we have guest Charles Clay, who is an inner peace coach and healer, neurokinetic pain relief therapist, and creator of the Inner Peace Process. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Truly a pleasure. It's great to be here.
Thank you also for being so amazing and working with the technology with me. I know that you have such an important story and message to get out to my audience, so I'm grateful. So let's start from the beginning. Can you tell folks a little bit about yourself and what led you into the work that you're doing today?
Yeah, it's not every day you meet an inner peace coach. And I had to learn the hard way in order to get to teach an easier way. And a lot of my whole story was one from pain to purpose. And I graduated from Washington State University with my degree in kinesiology. Always had this fascination for these human bodies, these sensory suits we get to call home for such a short time. And I was a personal trainer background, health coach. This evolved into the healing arts when I found myself in Mammoth Mountain in 2008 with 2 buddies, and it was a full-on blizzard. Like, the conditions were crazy. There was snow coming every which way. It was a whiteout. You could barely see a blur of a tree 10 feet in front of you. And they closed down the lifts because it was so dangerous, but we're already at the top. So we kind of look at each other, hey, let's just charge and be ready for anything. So we're having a blast snowboarding through what felt like cloud 10, and just ripping through this mountain until about halfway down, I went off a jump that I didn't know was there. And it felt like I just went off a cliff. And I freaked out, tensed up. And as soon as I hit, the impact felt like a lightning bolt on my low back. And I knew I was in big trouble. I tried to yell to my friends because I was in so much pain. They couldn't hear me. They were already in front of me. And I look at my phone and my phone's dead. So here I am in the middle of a blizzard at like a level 11 on a 10 scale of pain. And I'm like, man, I got to find another gear and channel my inner Spartan warrior to get out of this because I couldn't even stand up. So I literally clicked my board off and sat on my board and tried sliding down as far as I could. And then I'd have to keel over and breathe into the pain for a while. Eventually I made it down the mountain, then to go see doctors, and didn't like what they had to say. I got MRIs, x-rays, and they're showing me how jacked up my spine is from this injury that they said I'd need surgery ASAP, maybe multiple surgeries, or I'd never move the same again. And for someone that appreciates, these sensory suits, that was the last thing I wanted to hear. And even in fight or flight state, I knew I could access my intuition and just choose a different path. And I decided I would, go with the self-healing path and seek all answers to healing naturally before going under the knife. And it wasn't easy. That meant...
Yeah, I was going to say, you were in a lot of pain. So what does one do?
Yeah, I remember being in my apartment in San Diego at the time, and I could barely crawl to the bathroom. I was in so much pain. And my body was telling me to slow the F down and to actually feel all the emotions that I had been kind of running from or numbing out or, not wanting to feel and avoid. And this was, shame in that moment, whether I could, I couldn't even stand up straight, let alone get to work or do anything productive. Fear, whether I would ever move the same again or heal from this fully. And even some grief that was unprocessed from loss earlier on in my life. And so I allowed myself to go to the depths of each of those and just found myself in a pool of tears. And, after a good cry, you find clarity. And in that, I was able to set an intention for a meditation and a prayer to receiving all answers to healing naturally. And literally, while I was in that meditation, a friend I hadn't heard from in 2 years sent me a text and said, check out neurokinetic therapy, NKT, for your back. And this was such a blessing because it took me down the rabbit hole of the work of David Weinstock and, became friends with him and got in touch with him. He set me up with his top student in San Diego at the time. That's how I met Christina. And I walked in for my first session looking like Shakira stuck in a mid-hip dance move. My hips were over to the left, my upper body's to the right. I was a mess. And my body was showing me, how out of alignment I was with my purpose at that time. Training, taking on 10 clients a day, and then going out on the weekends and avoiding these emotions with, sex, drugs, rock and roll, all the seeking pleasure, and instead of facing the pain. So this was a huge shift for me because she got me on the table and started testing muscle groups. And she tested my glutes, had me just push down with my foot, and nothing was firing. And I was like, what do you mean my glutes aren't firing? That's weird. I failed the test. And she said, yep, all form, no function. And so she had me clench my jaw.
Isn't that crazy though? That's like actually like you can, I was working out for most of my life and the same thing. It was like I wasn't activating the right muscles.
Yeah.
But like the butt looked high and lifted, but it was actually not even working correctly.
Totally. And this is common. Like people are walking around with compensation patterns, muscles that aren't firing properly. And that eventually leads to pain, the check engine light. We're pretty diligent when it comes to our cars. You get a check engine light, it's like, I better go make a change or get a service and make sure you don't have a major breakdown. So why are we not that diligent with something way more intelligent than our vehicles, with these human bodies, and learn to understand those messages? And that's what this led me to, because she had me clench my jaw and then retested the glutes, and all of a sudden they were back online temporarily. I was like, wow, that's interesting. So the neurological traffic jam was in my jaw, blocking the signal from getting to where it needs to go, to the big guns. And we found, a couple other compensation patterns like this and began releasing the muscles that were overfiring. So she's putting on these rubber gloves. She's like, I know we just met, but I'm going to have to go in your mouth. I'm like, what? So she's releasing my jaw. And it was so painful, just ached. I was holding so much tension there.
I do too. I do. Like, yes, I need this. I wish you lived near me. I need someone fishing around in my mouth.
Oh my gosh. I've had people fly out from Australia to come get sessions for this because it is so profound what you can learn in as little as one session. I mean, my body had just showed us where the neurological traffic jam was, my jaw. And then we combine that with some metaphysics, which is, wow, the jaw's associated with our limbic system or emotional component. So we oftentimes carry anger, resentment, and even revenge in stuck energy in the jaw. And that can create a neural traffic jam that doesn't allow the signal to get to where it needs to go. And so, yeah, it was so fascinating. I was blown away by this. And as she released that, all of a sudden my glutes are firing again. And we did this for a couple other compensation patterns. I got off the table and stood up straight and felt like dancing. I gave her a big hug and I said, wow, I'm 90% better in one session. Wow. I'm going to keep seeing you every week. I studied all of David Weinstock's courses, got to, do an apprenticeship under him, and became certified as a neurokinetic pain relief therapist, and opened up my practice there in Encinitas at the time. And this shifted everything for me, because now I see why and how that pain was actually helping me along the way. Like, I wouldn't take it back for anything. And now, understanding pain as pay attention inward now.
Yes, I love that. Can I steal that?
Absolutely. And it's understanding the messages. So it's like listening to the little feather before it has to feel like a brick hit in the head, or like a Mack truck, experience. And so this led me down, my path that evolved into the inner peace process, because there's 3 key elements that I address that a lot of people kind of overlook when it comes to pain. One is obviously the physiology, if the nerves are even firing properly to the muscles. And so physically, once you restore function with NKT, there's no need for the check engine light. And there's 2 other pieces to the puzzle. One, when it comes to pain, a lot of people overlook the emotional component. And so this is like, emotions are energy in motion. They're messengers that want to move through us. And when we resist it, because we've been taught it's a bad emotion or whatever,
it persists.
It goes up as issues in our tissues. And
yes, what we resist persists.
That's right. And so that is a huge piece. And that's what's amazing about the inner peace process. Allows us to, it's a process for finally metabolizing like trapped emotions and identifying the limiting beliefs that were created, decisions that we made about ourselves in a certain experience at a younger age, that then keep showing up in our experience now as upper limit problems, right? It can show up as limiting our, finances, our business, our relationships, all these things. And this is a way to dissect that and get to shift that story, bring some love, support, and safety to the parts of us that need it most in a reparenting process. And it's just beautiful what you discover. It's amazing. And when your body metabolizes this energy, finally, it frees up a lot of energy. And then you can channel that into, a visioneering process I teach, which allows you to get super clear on your North Star, what it is you want to create, experience, and fulfill in this life, since we're here for such a short time, so that we can die happy without deathbed regrets. And it's a game changer.
So this, to me, and I've done, for those that you are listening, I've actually done a session with Charles, and it was really powerful. What I think is interesting about your work is that it is physical, right? It's physical, spiritual, energetic, right? Because you're working on the trauma. You're also doing a lot of like inner child work. So you're kind of getting like all the bits and pieces. And then you're going into the limiting beliefs, upper limits. Upper limits are like a new fascination of mine, because yes, I've been working through a lot of my stuff as well. But the upper limits thing is very interesting, because as you grow, you hit different plateaus. And then it changes, and you're like, oh, okay, so I got past that one. Ooh, I can identify this one. And that expansion process. So what's really cool, I think, about your work is that you kind of do it all. So it's not like it's spirit, mind, and body, really.
Absolutely. The mind and body are one. We keep thinking of like disconnected, or they're different, or, it operates really well when the mind is, fully connected to the heart and used as an instrument of. So the third component and the piece that we address that's really valuable is the metaphysics. And there's so much on this. I mean, Louise Hay left just a plethora of really amazing material as far as metaphysics. And this is like literally like the metaphors of like what you're dealing with in life, how that manifests in your body as dis-ease or illness, where it's showing up in your body is giving you clues as to what's going on and how you can shift that simply by being intentional and bringing affirmations and giving your cells good information, because everything that we're saying and thinking and identifying with, our cells are always responding to it. So if it's like the waking up and we're, looking in the mirror and we're just programmed to look for flaws. And we're like, oh man, I'm getting old. I have like gray hairs. Like, oh man, the body's responding to that. And just, oh, okay, that's what we're doing. We're getting old. Okay. And instead it was like, recognize that program. It's like Windows 2007 that got created and updated, and recognize, you can look in the mirror and see God, like divinity within you, and then get to remember your purpose, which is so many people spend their whole lives trying to figure out their purpose in the mind. And if you break it down, let's talk about what got us here, right? It's love. We literally, all of our ancestors had made love in order for us to be here right now. What a gift that we get to be love and get to share love. And as long as you're doing that, you're going to find more and more of the gluten-free breadcrumbs the universe leaves you in your alignment with your purpose.
I can't with you with the gluten-free breadcrumbs.
Gluten-free.
That is just perfection. I have to steal that. Those gluten-free, wisdom-filled nuggets.
Best kind.
Plant-based nuggets. I've got an exciting offer for all of my listeners. The free Divine Daily Practices video series. Get simple practices to release anxious thoughts, sharpen your intuition, and rewire your nervous system in less than 10 minutes a day. Come on over to my website at divinelifestyles.com/divine daily practices. And over the next week, you'll receive a complimentary self-care system to drop into your authentic self and activate your divine intuitive wisdom. I hope you enjoy. So I just kind of want to change gears. I just picked up my cards. I don't know why I was like drawn to pick them up, because you said something and I had picked this card. I always pick a card before I do an interview just to see like, what do I need to know? And this is Keepers of the Earth. You're not alone, and your ancient ancestors stand by your side. And it was just a beautiful prayer of like calling them in, like, and just saying anything that I needed of support on my path, that they were there in support. So I did that prayer right before coming on. And I think at the end, we're going to pick one for you. So stay tuned, everyone who's listening. We're going to do one for you at the end. But one thing you said that I want to dive into a little bit is purpose. Because a lot of people say, okay, what it is. And my work is very much focused on returning to your soul's blueprint. What is it that you were here and born to do in this time, in this lifetime? It has a lot to do with ancestral healing. But what do you think? Better question. Can you share some tangible tools with the audience of how they can find their purpose?
Absolutely. And a lot of times on one end of the spectrum, it'll have to do with the things that light you up, that like the novelty, the experiences that really you feel this like long-term fulfillment from. And that's usually any form of creation, right? It's the tapping into creator consciousness, the fact that you are an epic creator. And so when you're creating, whether it's music, writing, sharing, giving a talk, podcast, like this is tapping into that long-term fulfillment, which is aligned with your purpose, which is much different than when we fall into the trap of over-consuming, which is what we've been taught in our society, right? Like if you got pain, take a pill for it, numb it out. You have a drink, numb it out, watch Netflix or hop on a scroll on Instagram to find some dopamine, anything but to feel that. And instead, when you go into it, and make friends with pain as a signal from your body, that's really important. The level of intensity is how important it is that you shift something in your life, right? It's a great catalyst for change. And so that's the other end of the spectrum that can actually be helping you. I mentioned how I walked into my first session, way out of alignment, hips to one side, upper body to the other side. That was my body's intelligence showing me how out of alignment I was with my purpose.
Which was the physical manifestation, right? That was just the physical manifestation of what was going on, right? So you had a wake up, but what about for folks who are just kind of like, nah, I just don't know what it is I'm here to do?
Yeah. It's the things that light you up, right? So the things that excite you, whether it's novelty, trying something new, and then you'll notice that there's like this fulfillment that comes from it impacting others, or you hear, reflections from others about how this shifted them, or
Yeah.
how, you'll get that intuitive hit that there's something here for me, that this is the path, because it's a level of fulfillment that is much richer than any amount of money you could get from in your bank account from it. It's like you would do it for free, exciting, and that path of long-term fulfillment is much different than what a lot of people choose, which is the short-term gratification, the seeking pleasure instead of pain, and that just leads to over consuming, which then you get your old friend anxiety knocking at your door a lot, because then you're procrastinating on all these epic ideas and messages on your heart that you're meant here to share before you end up in the grave. And so it takes courage, because you're going to be met with fear. Anytime you go to do something great, give a talk about something that's really dear to your heart, or, share an email that's pretty, bold and could get some negative feedback. These are things that, moving through that resistance, you get to learn so much more about yourself. And then when you come back to the foundational piece that, man, we're made from love, and we get to share love. So if you're just overflowing on that, doing your morning practices, you're looking in the mirror and seeing divinity instead of all the flaws, and you're changing those programs, then it's easy to organically show love and improve any room that you step into. And if that's your intention, is just being and giving love, you will become very clear on these paths of long-term fulfillment. And who's to say we don't have multiple purposes in one lifetime?
Yeah.
There's all kinds of different things that light us up. But it's usually on the other side of fear where you'll find it.
I heard someone say this, and I might be butchering it, but I'm going to go for it. It was, your purpose isn't what you do. It's who you become while you're in this aligned place of light, and how others are receiving you. You are then in like the byproduct of being in your purpose. So your purpose isn't like an actual destination. It is in the doing and of the embodiment in the being, right, and how that ripple affects to others. Yeah, I don't know if you know what I'm saying, but like it was saying like, it's not like my purpose is to go heal the children. It's like, no, I am in this being embodiment. And when I'm doing these acts, I am in alignment with purpose.
Yep. And when you notice how people respond and how it lands with people, or how it shifts their lives, those are huge clues that you're on the path, that you're being of service, and it just happens organically and feels, like very valuable, and sharing messages on your heart and doing the things you came here as a soul to do. That's like one of the best cures to, this worldwide anxiety that everybody's experiencing. And, it's again, anxiety is an emotion, it's an energy, and energy is information. So when I got really good at avoiding anxiety. I was like, going to give a talk or speech, just feeling these butterflies and sweaty palms, and I'm like a mess all in my head, and I'm supposed to deliver this huge speech on stage. And I sat there and I said, man, I'm about to just speak to a bunch of amazing human beings. Like, why am I getting this response? Like I'm running from tigers or something. And then when I just tuned into the intelligence of my body and the sensations alone, instead of naming it like anxiety, which feels like nails on a chalkboard, I was like, it's just energy. And it's actually very similar sensation to excitement, right? Yeah. Like I get to share something and connect with all these people in this opportunity. And that helped me like get out of my head into my heart and into the flow, and actually really get to connect with, what was meant to be shared in that experience. And so I knew I was onto something. And that actually encouraged me to sit deeper in the depths of the uncomfortability of anxiety that I had been avoiding so long. And that's what I discovered: gold. Like, I sat there and noticed where it was showing up in my body, and my mind was like, hurry, go stuff it with something in the fridge, go just or get out, do anything but feel this. And instead I just sat with it, let all the mind's band-aids, the Rolodex of, escape tactics just float by. And when I went into it, it was like an old friend. Anxiety was an old friend that had been knocking at the door, trying to share a very important message. And it was like answering the door and inviting him in for anxiety. And here we are, sitting together through this uncomfortable experience, when I recognized, like, he just wanted to show me my biggest fear. Anxiety is usually related to fear and not trusting the flow of life. So stare, square in the face. I've lost both of my parents, so I've been very intimate and close to death with my most loved people in my life, and it's impacted me in such a way that I recognize the temporariness of this whole human experience. And so when I look at the timeline and I'm like, well, this fear is showing up because it's much more intense than any fear of rejection or, looking stupid or embarrassment, or instead it's like a fear that recognizes, wow, I have a lot to share in this life. And these are messages on my heart that can help other people. This is, programs that have been transforming people that I'm meant to create and share, that are just a game changer for the people that are involved and resonate with them. And that is the path to long-term fulfillment. And anxiety, my old friend was saying, hey, I'm just knocking on your door because you've been choosing to overconsume a lot instead of create. And that was a huge aha for me. That was like, I was choosing procrastination and like the easy dopamine hit, or the path to, like, the vices, all the things, instead of actually dusting off this list of amazing ideas and, like, things I want to share and programs I wanted to create. And so it inspired me and lit a fire to create those things, the laser focus method during the pandemic, the interview process, and getting to share this with people is just, like witnessing, how fast people's lives can transform. And doing this deep inner work, you can open up new doors and opportunities for aligning with your heart's greatest desires and fulfilling a lot of dreams, instead of taking those dreams or ideas to the grave. And that is definitely a strong path to purpose and fulfillment that, I'm bound to continue on, because it just keeps getting more exciting.
I love it. I love it. You talk a lot about, like, choosing your thoughts wisely, and also healing, like, the source, that whether that's a childhood trauma or if this is an addiction. So I would love for you to just share with the audience a little bit, because I know you have you have a couple different programs. So, like, what does it look like to work with you?
Yeah. So a lot of people that have enrolled in my 8-week inner peace process, it's much different than like chiropractors or talk therapists. I've had some people that have not knocking therapists at all, because I think there's definitely benefits and value there. But I've just had a number of clients share that they did like over 3 years of therapy and did 8 weeks of the inner peace process and gained more tools and had more incredible results and outcomes and life shifting, revelations than they had in 3 years of therapy. And so it's an opportunity for experiential learning. That's my favorite way to teach, is to actually like go through an experience together and then give the take home tools for that. So it's not something like, you need to see me 3 times a week for the next 3 years. I always recognize that the foundational piece for my work is that you are your own greatest healer. Nobody knows your mind, your body, your soul like you. And so I've just been able to simplify some very powerful self-healing tools and practices that allow you to get more answers and allow you to move through more challenges with ease and grace, to see what's on the other side of fear, and to get to share and align with more of your purpose and the God-given gifts that you're meant to share here.
I love that. So what's the greatest and most insightful piece of advice that you've ever received?
Mm-hmm.
And then you can tell me what you think the most insightful it has been that you've given.
You know, the first kind of quote that's come to me was, I wish I could remember their name, but this was, you know, aligned with spiritual journey, as a wise sage, when asked, hey, what is real? What is reality? And, you know, on earth. And he replied with, that which never changes. That's a fun one to contemplate, because everything in this human experience changes, right? So he's referring to the eternal soul that never changes. You know, like we go through death, rebirth, and transformation and transforming, in all these different words, but the eternal aspect of each of us that connects us all. And it's a really profound, you know, statement to really contemplate on, because so many things change in this realm.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So what would you think, since you kind of were like received, now I feel like, do you want to share any wonderful advice to the audience? I feel like maybe you have something.
Yeah, lots of things. I mean, one, so many people are, you know, want the fountain of youth, or want to stay young and stay, you know, vibrant. And so one is being able to identify those negative programs, like the old negative spirals of thoughts, because our bodies, our minds are so intelligent that whatever we're identifying with, whatever thoughts we're identifying with, are creating our reality. And it's so fascinating that we forget we have this power. So it's like finding ways, using the inner peace process or other ways, to release the old negative programs, those thought spirals that, you know, feel like you're just getting pummeled by wave after wave, and instead choosing intentionally the good feeling thoughts that actually, you know, align with your spirit, your soul, your God-given gifts. And in doing that, your cells, every cell in your body is responding. So to the thoughts that you choose, to the words that you speak, and the feelings that you're experiencing. And so when you're diligent about, you know, the thoughts that you choose and identify with, and let the old negative ones just keep floating by, you can acknowledge them and recognize them. But I'm a surfer, so I like to, you know, sit on my board out past the breaker. I call it the seat of awareness, and just watch as all the waves form, just like thoughts, you know. And if you're trying to empty your mind and stop thoughts, that'd be like sitting at the shore trying to stop waves from coming. You know, they're going to come, but it's how you identify and relate with them that counts. And when you get really good at this game of observing instead of identifying with or diving into those negative thought spirals, then you can choose the thoughts that your cells love hearing, you know, like looking here, seeing divinity, feeling and experiencing youth, and that you feel like you're getting younger every year, and that, you know, just a deep love and admiration and appreciation for these sensory suits. And, you know, when you're giving those thoughts and speaking that into reality, your body responds really well. It's like, yes, thank you, more energy, you know. And even if I get a, you know, rough night's sleep, because I have two beautiful daughters, you know, and things happen, and I might just have a few hours of sleep one night, and I have a full day of, you know, exciting things and work, and I can wake up and be like, oh man, this is gonna be such a rough day because I, you know, didn't get enough sleep. Then that is setting the precedent, and that's what your body's responding to. And it's like, cool, I'm going to be more tired and I'm going to be dragging through the day. What if you start out, recognize those thoughts, and choose instead, I got exactly the sleep that I need to be and show love today, and get to have the most fun possible, and set an intention with that. And that is a game changer, because then it becomes more like a Navy SEAL training, where we all had those nights where you only get like an hour or two of sleep, and then you have a huge day of a lot of things. Can you still show up for it? And you'd be amazed at what your body can do when your mind chooses those thoughts and that intention instead. And so that becomes a really fun game to practice in your reality.
I love it. So let's let everyone know where they can learn more about you, your work, and connect with you directly. And I know you have some bonuses and some fun gifts, so share all of it with everybody.
I love giving gifts. We don't have to wait till Christmas. Go to charlesclay.coach and subscribe at the bottom. You'll get a free alignment activation. Now, this is a practice with movement, breath work, visualization that you can use as a morning ritual that helps you fill up with full sovereign chi. And it's sovereign chi because it's like,
I love your isms. I'm loving your isms. They're like great. You need a little book.
Yeah, it makes it easy to remember them and embody them. And this practice is a game changer. It's when it feels good, it's working, and you're just filling up with your own life force energy so much that there's no room for anything else. And that's a great way to start your day, or anytime you're in a funk, kind of reclaim your energy. And so enjoy that gift. And then those of you on Instagram, just add me at charlesclay.coach as well. And feel free to shoot me a DM if any of this resonates, if you want to experience the inner peace process, how to heal your own childhood trauma through self-healing practices. It is mind-blowing. It's almost so simple that a lot of people wouldn't realize that it works so well. And if you want to experience that or dive deeper in this work, just shoot me a message saying podcast, and I'm happy to offer a 15-minute support call to see where you're at, where you want to go. And as long as space is available, I'm happy to gift that forward.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here today. And everybody who is tuning in, you better check out his work, get his freebies. He is living and embodying this work in a very beautiful way. So thank you so much for just being here and sharing your medicine with the world.
Cheers. I appreciate you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Divine Lifestyles Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you get your episodes. If you really loved this episode, screenshot it and share it on social media. It will help us to continue to make an impact. With gratitude and love always, keep illuminating your path.